Welcome to Proud Veteran Outreach, our weekly TV show where we invite you, the citizen, to participate with us to help identify the lost or isolated veteran. My name is Jim Jurowitz. I'm an Army military veteran from the Vietnam era. Our show is brought to you by the Proud Foundation and the Vet Centers of Minnesota, located in Duluth, Brooklyn Park, and New Brighton. We need your help. Military veterans have transition problems going from active duty to civilian life. And when they have these problems, they isolate. And when they isolate, they have a tendency to get depressed. They sometimes go homeless, and they sometimes commit suicide. So we want your help, and we want to make you feel comfortable helping us. And so today we're going to introduce you to a deeper dive into the DAV. The more I know about them, the more passionate I am about this organization. And this is a non-government organization that is 100 years old. So today we have Alex Kempe as our guest, and he's going to introduce us to the DAV. And welcome, Alex. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Jim.
So would you please give us an introduction of your military history?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm U.S. Army and U.S. Army Reserves, 9 years total, with a tour in Iraq from 2003 to 2004.
And what was your MOS?
I was a combat engineer,
okay.
Bridge crew member.
Okay, great. And so how did you come to join or work for the DAV?
It's a funny story.
I'm glad you can laugh today.
After I finished up with reintegration issues that I held on to in accordance with my PTSD and some of the other mental health issues that I had after returning home, I had fallen into addiction and ended up going out to the St. Cloud VA hospital for treatment and participating in the Veterans Court in Ramsey County. I then was housed after St. Cloud at the MACV Building 47 on the VA grounds. And the DAV actually showed up there to hand off some coats. And I talked to them about doing donation pickups. And so I started off with the DAV as just going around and picking up people's gently used donated items. And then found out there was a position open as a department service officer. With my background in psychology, it was easy transition.
So congratulations on your recovery. So what was the length of time from your military duty to recovering from your addiction?
So I faltered in and out of my addiction probably the last 3 years of my
3 or 4 years.
3 years of my military service.
Mm-hmm.
Unit kept fighting for me to get back on track. I kept getting back on track.
So you actually became addicted in the service?
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, after my deployment in 2000, after I came back in 2004, I started using methamphetamines pretty heavily to not sleep and avoid the nightmares that I was suffering from, and all the emotional baggage that came along with my deployment. So it was, I was in my addiction while I was in the service, got good, and then fell back in it, got good, and finally it was just, it's time to say enough is enough, and got out.
And so where was the moral support for you? Was it only the institutions, the military institutions, or the recovery hospitals, or was your family involved? How did that, because we want the civilians out there to engage with us and understand that they can be an asset to recovery.
Absolutely. Even though there's a gap between civilians and military, which I think you guys are doing an amazing job of trying to bridge. Mm-hmm. My family and friends were a great support network. A lot of it fell on the military side of things. Mm-hmm. My military brothers and sisters fighting for me to get back on track. But after I got out of the military, it was really dependent upon the civilian sector on helping me find my way. and actually leading me to the St. Cloud VA hospital.
So from the problems you've had, you know, it did do one wonderful thing, and that is to trigger your passion.
Absolutely.
To trigger your passion to give back and help others.
You know, one of the things that I tell veterans on a regular basis is when they come in and they talk to me, and they end up, a lot of them end up saying, you know, you're really easy to talk to. You know, I can associate with you on multitudes of levels, is because I went through the homelessness, I went through the divorce, I went through the estrangement from my children, I went through the financial instabilities, the addictions. I went through all of those issues that we see in military members throughout history. And so when they can correlate with me because I've been through it, and they don't have to feel like they can't open up,
right,
and be honest about the issues that they're facing, it makes my job a lot easier, and it makes me able to help them in a much larger capacity.
Well, again, I'm grateful that you have got such a good positive attitude about it. Let's talk about this 100-year-old organization that you work for.
Yeah.
How did it get started? Because DAV is an acronym for something, so what is it an acronym for?
So September 25th, 2020 will be a 100-year-old organization, a national nonprofit service organization.
Right.
Our acronym, the DAV, is actually Disabled American Veterans. We're working to pull away from the full terminology of the Disabled American Veterans.
Disabled,
right, because there's a lot of stigma that goes along with it.
Sure.
Veterans of all eras think, you know, disabled. We were trained in the military not to be weak or sensitive or anything along those lines, so I don't want to label myself disabled. So we've dumbed it down to just the DAV, in essence, so that they don't feel like they're going to be looked at any differently because they're a member or because they're receiving any assistance or resources from us.
So you, in your prelude here, you identified that the DAV is dedicated to a single purpose of empowering veterans to lead high-quality lives with respect and dignity. I mean, that's pretty powerful. Absolutely. So you emulate that passion. How do you accomplish this? What are the things that the DAV does?
So the DAV,
besides sell surplus goods.
Right. So the DAV is comprised of 3 different levels.
Yeah.
Right. So we have our national level that fights on Capitol Hill,
yeah,
for legislative changes,
yeah,
helps out service other organizations financially to help them if their mission aligns with ours. They staff national service officers to help veterans with assistance with accessing benefits like compensation, education, dependency benefits, death benefits. And then we have our state level that fights on Capitol Hill here, or in whatever state that it is, for here in Minnesota, at our capital. As well as they staff my position, which is a department service officer. We have our outdoors program, things along those lines. So we fight on the state level and help out in other initiatives in that aspect. And then we have our chapters, which are our local grassroots aspects of our organization. They are the ones who are in our local communities that get out and try to find those lost veterans that you're doing a great job of.
Okay, so let's identify your chapters. You have 32 chapters in the state, and can you differentiate what the 17 auxiliaries are different from the chapters?
So our auxiliaries are comprised of non-military,
okay,
right? Dependents of military members, their nieces, granddaughters, uncles.
So it's an extended family
fathers,
of the military.
Correct. Anybody who wants to actually participate and help the DAV in its initiatives is able to become an auxiliary member in that aspect. And then they're an entity of their own as well.
And you rely on volunteers and donations. So there is a cost for membership into DAV, but you're a lifetime member once you pay the initial fee for getting in. So can you tell us how that works?
Correct, absolutely. So starting January 1st, we just changed our cost. It's going to be $300 flat fee across the board up to 80 years old. Anybody over 80 gets membership for free. But it's $300. You can either sign up as a lifetime member with a one.
And so that's
cost.
for the entire family. So if you're a veteran, you sign up, and your family and everybody's included in that.
Well, so no, that's just membership for the veteran.
Okay.
If they want to become an auxiliary member, it's a cost of its own.
Okay.
But the veteran itself is then has the options of paying that $300 or doing a $10 a month for 30 months. We don't have annual dues. It's just we have a lifetime membership.
And the good news is you can be a volunteer without becoming a member, so you don't have to pay to volunteer.
Absolutely. No, you can be a volunteer and give up your time to help our nation's heroes in a multitude of ways. Our most well-known volunteer opportunity is with our transportation network.
So let's talk about the programs that you have, because I've highlighted 4 of them that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And so let's talk first about your outdoor programs. Those seem to be pretty interesting, and I'm sure a lot of veterans like the fact that you offer that service. So what do your outdoor programs do? Absolutely.
So our outdoors program is run by John Carson, who's a disabled veteran himself, who understands the therapeutic values that it comes along with getting veterans who are wheelchair bound, paralyzed veterans, veterans with heavy PTSD that go through isolation periods. So we work getting those individuals into the outdoors, going hunting, fishing, camping, build that camaraderie that they had in the military with each other on these expeditions, and help them heal.
Okay, and then the second part is the donor connection. How does the donor connection part work?
So our Donor Connect is a very unique program in
and may
itself.
I interject the fact that DAV used to have stores similar to Goodwill, but you abandoned the stores and have turned it into a collection program. So
correct.
So how does the consumer donate their donations to you? How do they get it to you?
So those are actually two different programs. So our Donor Connect program is a unique program, is where we help individuals that have medical equipment and don't need it, get it to veterans who are in need of it but don't have it. So we will connect a donor that maybe has a power wheelchair or scooter, walkers, canes, things of those lines, and get them connected with the veteran who's in need of that but can't afford it, or doesn't have the resources to obtain it in any other way. So Jerry Falkwinski is our program coordinator on that. Yeah. And if anybody has medical equipment, gently used medical equipment that they feel that they would like to donate, it doesn't have to be from a military member. Anybody that has that medical equipment that's looking to donate it can contact Jerry through either our website and get the number off of there, or call me, and I'll get them the contact information for Jerry.
Okay, and let's talk about the other donor program where you actually create a revenue stream on the donations.
Correct.
How does that work?
Because we're a national nonprofit service organization, our funding needs to come from somewhere. As much as we like to depend upon our membership for the amount of stuff that we do as the DAV. We need something more. So we did have stores ways back, but now we partner with a for-profit fundraising organization called Savers. What we do is we send out box trucks to neighborhoods that on a schedule to pick up gently used or new clothing, household goods, things of that nature, not furniture, but small items.
Do you have drop-off boxes too?
We also do have drop-off boxes throughout the state in different areas. You can find that on our website as well. And then we bring that to Savers. Savers pays us for those goods, and that's what helps support our service organization in its mission.
Okay, and the services that you offer to disabled veterans is pretty remarkable. You help them find the right resources that they need to cope with life. But again, a lot of them are medical issues and they don't have transportation. So what does the DAV do to help them with that?
Yeah, so one of our most well-known programs is actually our transportation program. That's actually run by Stephanie Zymentz, who's our program director she's housed out of St. Cloud, but she oversees the state. And then we have hospitality service coordinators who are in the Fargo area, the Superior, down in Rochester, and then up in the Minneapolis area. Those hospitality service coordinators oversee 35 fleet vehicles that we have here in the state.
And how do you get these fleet vehicles?
So we procure them. We'll either get them donated or we'll purchase them.
Yeah.
And then we donate those vehicles to the VA to license and insure. And then we have our hospitality service coordinators who oversee the program, gathering volunteers, scheduling the rides to and from the appointments.
So if a volunteer is going to come forth and want to be a driver for transportation, do they contract with the DAV or do they contract with the VA?
So
who are they actually?
They will go through a process for a vetting process for volunteering through the VA, because they license and insure the vehicles. They have to go get vetted through the VA. So background check, physical, things of that nature, in order to be able to be approved to drive the vehicles themselves. But then they coordinate with our hospitality service coordinators to for their schedule, which they can do, one day a week, multiple days a week, whatever they have time for. Our hospitality service coordinators, or HSCs for short, because we love our acronyms. They can coordinate with those individuals on so that we can fit their schedule with their everyday life.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the majority of the public out there or a lot of the public has not ever stepped on a VA hospital grounds or a military post of any sorts. Is there any kind of tours or introductions that you do to help people get a little more comfortable just exposing themselves to the military area?
I know the VA does, they have tours themselves, especially if they want to go through the volunteering process. They can be given tours of the facilities. If any civilian was just looking to understand a little more so of what the VA is or what they do, they most certainly can contact me, and I can walk them through the services that the VA provides, because that's another thing that I do, is I help veterans navigate the Veteran Health Administration, which can be an extremely daunting thing.
So you must have some kind of happy training program for these volunteers, because all of the volunteers that I know for DAV are very enthusiastic, and they always got a good disposition about themselves and very strong sense of pride. So whatever you're doing it right.
There's something to be said about altruism, giving without the feeling of needing to get back. It helps us grow as individuals, and then to be able to help people who have put their life on the line for their country and are suffering from disabilities that came along with their service is enough to fill a heart.
Sure.
And so that,
in many hearts.
Absolutely. And the stories
there's enough to go around.
And the stories that you'll get from the veterans while you're giving them rides to and from their appointments, they're never lacking.
Yeah,
never lacking.
Good. Well, let's talk about outreach and information seminars and things like that that you also do. I think you put that under the category of benefits. You help people with their claims and their pensions and death and education benefits and all of that. How do you do all of this?
Time management. I try as hard as I can. I work off 3 different calendars. I work out of 2 different locations, as well as I do outreaches to the nursing homes, universities. I go to universities and help out the students on campus that maybe aren't able to get in to see me because they have schooling throughout the day. So my job consists of, my main job is I'm a service officer, is I help with benefits, educational, dependency, death, compensation, things along those lines. I also then help get veterans connected to the Veteran Health Administration if they've never been, if they've never looked at eligibility before. And then I will help them navigate that, walk them through getting set up with primary, because like I said before, it's a very daunting process, and it's too easy to get lost in that system. A lot of veterans also don't understand what benefits they're eligible for, so we do informational seminars. We'll go out to different locations throughout the state of Minnesota, and we'll put on informational seminars to educate the populace on what benefits they have there. So I mean, there's a lot to my job, but what I've been able to narrow it down in simplistic terms is I'm a one-stop shop. If you have a problem or a concern or issue and you need help, contact me. If I don't have the answers for you before you leave my office, we will figure out who does have the answers for you.
So we're going to run into depression and mental health problems and addiction. So what qualifies you? How do you qualify, or how do you recruit qualified people to make those evaluations?
I utilize the facts that I do compensation in order to start to pull out some of the issues that I know are underlying with a lot of veterans.
Right.
They come in there for compensation purposes, but underlying issues may be homelessness, addiction, mental health, and they've never been they've never gone in and seen anybody at the VA. Mm-hmm. If you've served, but you're not eligible for VA benefits, you are still eligible for mental health, which a lot of veterans don't know, so I make sure that gets known. You can go down and you can get seen for mental health. The 22 a day, 23 a day issues with veterans committing suicide is something the VA does not take very lightly. And so mental health, even if you are not eligible for full VA benefits, you are still eligible to receive mental health care.
So you're interfacing with the government organizations, but you're not a government organization.
Correct.
And you're also going to the legislature and speaking on behalf of these veterans. So can you talk a little bit about your work confronting the legislation and advocating? Absolutely.
So Trent Dilks is our state legislative director. He's consistently working on new resolutions. He's going out to city councils and county meetings and meeting with veterans across the state to figure out what the problems and concerns are, and then putting them into resolutions and then sending them off to get approved on future legislation. You know, one of the most recent things that you actually had on your show was when he was talking about the extension for the widow's property tax exclusion.
Right.
You know, that's a big win for us. That widowed dependents shouldn't have to lose out on that property tax exclusion, especially when they've dedicated a majority of their life to taking care of that veteran who served their country. So that property tax exclusion then got extended for them as well after the passing of the veteran. We're consistently working on legislation. It's a huge concern. That's actually why membership in a service organization is so imperative, because without the numbers, we are not able to fight that fight as best as we possibly can. And it is nothing against any particular legislators or congressmen or senators or anything along those lines, but there are those out there that are consistently chomping at the second largest federal entity, the VA's budget, to put and appropriate towards their own initiatives. So when we step up as service organizations and say, hey, listen, here, we have 300,000 constituents that say if this doesn't get passed, or if you pass this bill to ixnay this benefit, we will have issues.
Great. Well, again, I'm thoroughly impressed with what the DAV does. It's the most passionate organization I know out there reaching out for veterans, and I hope the civilians join your organization and volunteer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alex, for coming.
Appreciate your time, Jim. Thank you.